the excitement here, when President Trump rolled in here was, again, I guess you guys probably saw it, but it really is a special time after what happened this past weekend.
So everybody keeps talking Reagan. That's not unusual at Republican conventions, but it is louder and more universal now. Do you think there is a chance that Trump tries to take that Reagan-esque mantle of service with a smile, of turning away from just enraging the few and trying to access the many, and talk about unity and talk about disagreement with decency? Is there a chance that Saturday changed his mind because of how horrible a fate he avoided?
And it was a horrible fate that he just barely, a quarter of an inch avoided. A very dramatic moment in time that we saw there. Look, I've known him a long time. He is a changed person from it, because who wouldn't be? Who wouldn't be? Any of us, I think, that went through that would be a changed person. He is going to talk about unity. He is going to talk about disagreeing but not being disagreeable. I think that those are some of the things he's going to do, but he's also going to talk about, and it's important that he does, that Joe Biden is the worst president in American history, and on policy, on the broken open borders, on immigration, fentanyl, human trafficking, on the economy and the inflation crisis, the energy crisis that Joe Biden's policies have created, the disastrous foreign policy. Chris, that's what he's going to talk about, and he's going to talk about making America great again. And that's a moniker for the Democrats to try to sneer at, but I don't understand, and I think the American people are on the side of Donald Trump. How do you not want to make America great again? We are in a dismal time. America's best days are only ahead of it if we have leaders who believe in that.
Yeah, I mean, look, to me, my problem with MAGA has always been it's suggestive that America's not a great country. And I don't accept that. Coming out of Saturday, was there any thinking, Dave, of going a different direction than Vance, towards somebody who's more of a moderate, who's seen as someone who could be president if, God forbid, something happened to Trump?
You know, I haven't explored that, Chris. I don't think so. This president had it down to 3 people, all 3 of them highly qualified and ready to serve for different reasons. And I think that he picked the person that he had the best chemistry with, that he felt could step in if something, God forbid, happened to him, but had a lifetime of experience that he was able to count on as being a great vice president and possibly having to serve as president if anything happened.
Fellas, you got a question for Dave?
Is the president riding high because, well, here, Dave, Geraldo, is the president riding high because the documents case has been dismissed by Judge Cannon, that, you know, he seems to be on a roll, the lawfare seems to be failing? I'm sure that he is following it very closely. Did he particularly respond to the documents case being dismissed?
Geraldo, that's a great question, and yes, the president's legal team, and all of us, and I was personally involved in that Florida case. That was a monumental victory, having that case thrown out and having Jack Smith ruled as being unconstitutionally appointed. It's a major milestone as an unconstitutional act by the Attorney General. It's happened in the past, but it's because no one has challenged it and taken it to court like this that it's always just people look the other way. Donald Trump didn't, and so we are riding high. Look, we had a disastrous debate by Joe Biden. The American people saw what they have as a president. That was a scary moment for every American. It is. We all want our president to succeed. We want to have a strong, successful president. I may not agree with them, but we want it. And when you saw what Joe Biden was, that was a wake-up call to the American people.
Well,
this guy can't serve 4 more months, let alone 4 more years.
Well, Dave, I'm surprised the numbers didn't move more. I think it just shows how stubborn the resistance is and the division is. You know, somebody the other day put it perfectly. We are paralyzed because we're polarized right now. And just the appointments clause was litigated fully on the independent counsel statute. Hey, thank you for watching. Please go to newsnationnow.com, newsnationnow.com, and you can find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button down below. Then you will get more of NewsNation's fact-driven coverage.